basically, this creator mental health study that we did, we surveyed 542 creators about mental health based on their work and what they do. So we had part-time creators and full-time creators, and burnout was at 62%. Financial instability was the highest related to the stressors. Then obsession over content performance, and third was burnout. And then it went into low self worth based on something not performing well, imposter syndrome, and isolation. These are the
Mhm.
stressors relating to being a content creator. And the reason why that is important to know is because this is a growing industry and workplace. According to the IAB, 1.5 million people consider themselves full time creators. That's 8 times what that was in 2020. So it's growing. The actual economy around it is growing too. So for me personally, obviously, I am someone who's passionate about mental well being, but I believe that in order to build sustainable, I would say, spaces overall as humans and also workplaces, we need to be considering the well being of the workplace and workforce at its core, especially if this is a new and growing industry. We're talking about disruption, disrupting models. So, how are we building this from the ground up? And in many ways, I liken it to we are like the Uber drivers of this space. We are the gig workers, the digital gig workers. And so, with every other industry, by the way, we talk about stuff like this, right? How many times did we hear about study during COVID or post COVID about loneliness at the workplace or stress or this or that? Because we want companies to shift how they're treating their workers. And yet we're not thinking about the workers in this industry, which is a growing industry that continues to be promoted and talked about at every turn.
Mhm.
For me, there's a disconnect, and that's why I wanted to do this, and also to put numbers and data around the experiences and the things that a lot of creators talk about offline that is
Yeah.
not being taken seriously or looked at.
I completely agree. I mean, since leaving traditional news, I instantly found myself as a UGC creator. And one of my first deals was Cupshe. And they saw me. I was making videos just about the freedom I was having. I went on a girls' cruise and they saw how many people were on this cruise with me. And they're like, let me send you bathing suits. Let me send you
Okay,
clothes. And I was like, okay, like, let's get into this. But it's it really does negatively impact me mentally in many cases where if I'm creating content, I'm really hard on myself about it. It's like, "Oh, I don't
that
look as good
too.
in this." Like, so
Yeah,
the fashion creator content, just me and that, we didn't really drive. I tested it out, I enjoyed some clothes, but it was like, "I don't know if I can do this to myself every week." Like, having to look at myself like this. So there's things that you really don't realize, like, yes, you're making money, you're helping brands, you're building their awareness, you're creating content. But at the same time, if you're alone, you're isolated, you have no one else around, and you're just being hard on yourself all day, it's taxing.
well, yeah, and I think it's also that if the next generation, at the top of their list is to be a YouTube
Yeah.
creator and influencer, what kind of industry are we preparing them for?
Mhm.
Right? What we're setting this tone where we're normalizing, self-worth issues. We're normalizing burnout. We're normalizing, uh, you know, financial instability against the backdrop of a almost half a trillion dollar industry. This is where the disconnect for me happens. If this was a dying industry and you're like, and I feel all these stressors, I'd be like, yeah, it's dying. You probably need to leave. This is where it's there's a dissonance because this is a growing industry. More and more money is being put into it. It's an industry that's under the spotlight, and yet, and we'll talk about the growth and the top this and the top that, but and by the way, we'll also hire creators and use their platforms to be a megaphone to support people and for around mental health and for the next generation, right? And yet, none of us are asking about like, but how are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on with you? And every other industry, creative industry, musicians, actors, these are things that have been talked about. There's obviously unions and associations that have been created. And yet people are, again, I feel like using this space and interested in it, and yet actually not wanting to participate in what we need to do to make it, like, healthy.